Well, I hope that the week has been profitable for your being here. We've had a lot of good information, and we plan to do this again next year. I know it. Well, this afternoon, we saved the best presentation to last. I'm biased, of course. No, we wanted to talk this afternoon about something that typically you as an engineer are not that much involved in as far as the operation, but yet you should be. And you should be involved especially in the initial part of it, and that's digital audio workstations, or DAWs. I guess there's hardly any radio station, I guess, around now that's still using the splicing block and razor blades. You know, I've told people there's probably more DNA on that splicing block than there is, you know, anywhere else. We used to have a guy that did the Auburn Sports Network, Jim Fife, and I always knew when he had been in the production room, because there were just hundreds of pieces of 1/4-inch tape all over the floor where he was cutting up an interview with the coach or something. And I mean, that was an easy, I mean, it worked. And a lot of people did the edited that way, and there was a lot of people that were very good at that. But it was destructive. Once you cut it, you can't put it back together. I guess you could, but it never would sound right. So once we got away from audio tape and using razor blades and tape, most people didn't even buy splicing tape. They just used 3M tape, you know, and just put it on there, and it'd get gummed up on the head. You know how all that stuff went. So it was just really bad. When digital audio workstations came out several years ago, that was really a boon. It was nothing really new, because computers had been out for a long time, and we write Word documents, we send emails, we do spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets and all. And the technology that we use in a DAW is the same as you do in a Word document: cut, copy, and paste. People say, "Oh, I would never figure out how to use a digital audio workstation." I said, "Can you type a letter on a computer?" "Yeah." "Do you ever copy something or cut it and move it?" "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, that's all you do on a DAW." All you do, because the data in the audio file is the same as the data in an email or Word. It's just ones and zeros. It's just a bunch of data. We as engineers typically don't get involved in the selection of the DAW software. I've often thought we should, because sometimes the production director comes up with he wants to put GarageBand in there, you know, to edit the spots on it and everything. And there's some bad DAWs out there, I'll admit to that. But you need to be very much involved in the implementation of the system and speccing out the devices that you're going to use to run the DAW on. And it's very important, if you don't do your homework initially, you could cause the DAW not to work properly or up to the par that it should. Two devices that you've got to make sure that you have is the audio interface. This little blue box here is a small digital audio interface made by Presonus. Focusrite makes some. There's several companies making them. Basically, all the audio interface does is changes any analog source that you have in the facility, such as the microphone or any other audio source that you might have that's analog. It changes it to digital. And I've had people say, "Well, why do I need that? My laptop has a microphone plug in it on the side of it." I said, "Well, yeah, but that's for Skype. You know, you don't get the quality. The audio driver and the audio card, typically that's in a computer, is not broadcast quality. That's not what it was built for. So in order to use it when a DAW and get the best quality, you want to go into either a USB port, so you bypass the audio card. Or if you've got a Mac, or even some of the window units have Firewire, Thunderbolt, and now there's what's the other? Dante. You can get Dante, AVB. There's several different formats that you can send digital audio into the either the laptop or tower or whatever you're using in your production room. So when you first start speccing out, if your station says, "We want to get a digital audio workstation, what do we need to do?" Or "We want to upgrade what we got," one of the first things you look at is that digital audio interface. And you say, "Well, what type do I need to buy?" This is a small one which has 2 inputs, microline inputs. It depends on what you want to do in the production room. Typically at a radio station, that's not all you need, because typically all you do is lay down a voice track. Everything else is done inside the DAW itself. You don't have to put the music in there. You can do that off of a flash drive or a disc or whatever you want to do. If you're going to do multi-track in real time, then obviously you would need more input. So this is a 2. They make a 6 and an 8 and all the way up to a 32 input interface. You would typically use that. What I've got up on the screen here is a 16 track that was actually done live. So obviously you would need 16 inputs to do that. But in a broadcast facility, in a production room, I've often told people, production people and managers, I said, with this little box here and your laptop, you've got a production room. That's all. You don't even need a console. All you got to do is just lay down the voice track, and then you can go back. I know the station, one of the stations over in Montgomery, the production director told me, he said, you had to stand in line if you got a busy station, and you had to stand in line to get in the production room. And you'd actually book time, or this announcer's got 1 to 1:30, and here's the spots he's got to produce. And so if somebody else needed to get in there, then they would have to wait till he got through. Well, now with this type of technology, you go in there, or you don't really have to go into the production room as long as you've got a room that will work, for a mic. You go in and lay down your voice track. And then he told me, he said, then I take that file and go sit at my desk with some headphones, and I put the spot together, or the station image into another. You can do it at home. Take it home in a flash drive or whatever, and you can do the editing anywhere. You can be on vacation. You can put stuff together on vacation. So it's really revolutionized the way the production room is seen. We used to have a big console, a regular broadcast console. If you were going to do any kind of anything extra in the spot, as you recall, you used to have a rack of equipment over there. You would have like maybe sometimes you might need an echo or some special effect. There were several companies, what was the name of that? Eventide, somebody made one that you could select different effects that you wanted, but that had to be routed through the console, and so that's all gone now. I was watching a webinar the other day that the guy was talking about with all the stuff that you have in the digital realm now, all this equipment that you have, you don't need it anymore. It's all built in right there, and it works very well, and you don't need all that. We just built a recording studio over at our training center at the ABA office, and we did it for two reasons. One is to use in our classes in teaching DAW, but the ABA, much like other state broadcast associations, they produce spots called PEP spots that your stations run, and it's like for non-commercial stuff like the Department of, the one we did the other day was Alabama Department of Labor, and they cut a spot, and they just sent it over I think she brought it over on a flash drive, and I just put it in the computer. And the good thing about it, she got it cut because we didn't have the audio portion of the room up and running, so she went over to a radio station, Sharon did, and got a lady over there to cut the spot for her. And when it came back and I put it in the computer, I said, well, here's a good training session. You can come in and watch, and we'll see how we do this. It was awful. The lady had read the spot, and she had made a bunch of errors, and when she edited, the edits were so bad that you could hear the edits, and the audio was different, the audio levels were different, and something happened, and I'm not sure why, it would actually go from left to right between the edits. I don't know how she did that. But then some of the audio was just jammed, the words were jammed up together, no breath rooms at all in there. Well, with the digital audio workstation, that was a piece of cake to clean up. You could normalize, and I'll show you how you do that in a minute as we walk through this particular one, but you can normalize audio in different segments. Even if one word is too loud, you can bring that one word down. You can add space in between words to make it sound more realistic. So it gives you a lot of possibilities. So that's the other thing, that the ABA is actually going to use that room to produce their own pep spots, which will really save them a lot of time and effort to get them done. So every radio station has those type. So you first got to have a digital audio interface that converts your analog sources into digital. The second, and probably just as important, if not more than the interface, is the computer itself. Now, when you decide to get a computer for your DAW, this is not the time for the sales manager to go train it out with Joe Bob's computer repair shop and vape store. You know, you got to get this is where you need to have the budget to get a really good computer. One that's got a good processor, one that's got as much RAM as you can possibly afford. Now, RAM is cheap. I mean, you can buy RAM now almost nothing, but you want to get as much RAM as you possibly can. Although just doing voice tracks and editing in a radio station is not that processor a hog on processor information. If you get into something like multi-channel, and you say, well, we'll never do that. Well, you don't know. You may put a DAW in today, and 2 months from now, there may be something you got to do with 8 or 9 tracks. So you want to have a good heavy-duty computer that's got a good processor and plenty of RAM. Hard drive is not really a concern, because typically you don't save your data or your file that you're working on actually on the computer. We always recommend that you don't do that. You do that on a separate drive, a slave drive. All that you want to run on the computer itself is the operating system and the DAW. So make sure that you get a good computer, heavy-duty computer with an i5 or i7 processor, dual core if possible. But just don't go and they say, well, there's one sitting in that storage room we haven't used in a while. Let's put that in there and put the DAW on it. Well, it may or may not work. It may work for just a 30-second spot, but then you start doing something in heavy lifting with a lot of stuff that you want to put on there, then it could bog down or start clicking. The other thing to remember on a computer, you need, as Jeff was talking about this morning, you need to clean that computer off and take everything off of there. You don't need to have a word processor. You don't need to have Excel spreadsheet. You don't need to have, I mean, you can have email on there, but you don't. In other words, you don't want to be multitasking on that computer. A lot of the automation people, wide orbit themselves, they'll say, well, our devices you can multitask on it. But nothing drives an engineer batty than to walk in the control room and look at the automation and he's skimming the web, looking for something on the web. I know the processor may or may not work okay, but the more, you know how a computer is, the more you ask it to do, it's only got so much power in the processor, and you can bog it down. I learned something the other day that some of you may already know. I didn't know, but when we were talking about RAM, that the processor chip itself has RAM built into it that shares between the cores. I didn't realize that. So that's another thing to look at when you're looking at processors. But clean the computer off and stuff that you don't actually need. Turn off all automatic updates. Nothing's worse than being right in the middle of producing something and all of a sudden an update pops up. I typically I'll put virus software on there, but I'll turn it off so it's not auto scanning and not going for updates, because you want that machine dedicated to what you're doing at that time. You can do your virus scanning at night, have it set to do it at night or something, but anything that's automatic you don't want to pop up. I heard one guy saying he was in the middle of some big multi-channel thing and he was just about through, and all of a sudden there was a Windows update popped up. And that just blew his whole thing, so you want to turn all that stuff off. I guess, is everybody here using DAWs? All your stations using DAWs? Nobody's using razor blades? I see nobody with a Band-Aid on their finger, so I guess that's it. So those are the two devices that you as an engineer need to make sure that you get the right type to do the job that you want to do, not today and not this week, but that's an investment for the station, but you want to make sure that you put what you need in there for years down the road, so that everything will, no need to put something in and then 3 months down the road, man, I need more. Because if you buy, it's like buying a console. You know yourself, if you buy, all I need is 16 channels. Well, 2 weeks from then, man, I need 3 more channels. I wish I had got a bigger board. When I was doing the Auburn football games, I had a 16-channel board that we did for radio, and people say, my word, you got a 16-channel console to do a football game? I said, yeah, and all my channels are full. I don't have any spare input. Really? Yeah. So you think it's big, but when you start plugging stuff in, you find out you run out. And just on a regular audio board in your control room, I mean, you'll run out of input. So you just got to make sure. And these type devices, even if you go to a digital console, now the prices have dropped so considerably on digital consoles. It's amazing. I mean, you can get a 16-channel digital console now for less than $2,000, and that's incredible. You can get a 32-channel for just a little over $3,000. So it's just makes sense to get something small, get something that you can use for a long time, and put it on a UPS. Put your doll on a UPS so that you don't have brownouts or problems, anything that will affect you while you're doing it. The doll software itself will normally be something that your production director may be used to using, a particular one that he likes, and if it's a recognizable software that's been around for a long time and has good support, then that's okay. But make sure he don't want to go the cheap route and get something that's not very good. I've always encouraged people, before you buy a DAW software, get the demo version and play with it and see if that's something you wanted to do. The DAW software, all DAW softwares, even the bad ones, do essentially the same thing. They allow you to record a file and cut, copy, and paste, and then add effects to it if you wish. The way that they do it and the names that they use for the different functions may change, but they're all the same. I heard a guy say one time when he was talking about audio consoles, and you can get anything from a little tiny 8-channel digital console all the way up to I think the guy that does Bruce Springsteen, he has a 96-channel board, but he said, I'm out. He said, I had to add 8 more channels outboard, more preamps, because we ran out of inputs. He had 96 plus 8. So he said, you just have to remember that what you're going to do and make sure that you've got it in there. And so with the prices like they are now, it doesn't make sense to buy a little squatty thing to put in there, because you may need some a little bit later. So make sure you get a good quality audio. The other thing about an audio interface, when you buy it, make sure that it's got a really good microphone preamp, because this actually has a microphone preamp in it, and you don't want to buy a box that does a good job in converting A to D and have a crappy preamp in it. Make sure that it's got a good preamp. Sometimes now people use condenser mics, which require phantom power. This one has a little button that you can turn. If you're using condenser mic, it'll turn on 48 volts for phantom power. It's got the 2 inputs on it for the microphones. It's got a headphone jack, so you can use this all by itself. You can take this home. I see a lot of people, musicians, that do a whole song, sitting in their bedroom with something like this, because you can record one track and then record another one and another one off the same box, and it just layers the tracks on the screen. But it has main outputs and headphones, and it runs off of USB power. Now, some of the big ones, of course, have a wall wart, but these smaller ones like this just plug into the USB port and it's powered off the USB. So this is the part that you as an engineer should be involved in, making sure that what you're putting in there is going to do the job they want to do for several years down the road, and that it's good quality equipment. Now, the software itself is not something that you as an engineer normally are involved in on a day-to-day operation. However, it's been my experience, and I'm sure most of you in the room will agree, that if you're an engineer at a facility, no matter what happens, who do they come to see with the problem? The engineer. I mean, the guy said he ran sound for a church, and he said no matter what happens in the service, they always look at the sound guy. It could be, the lighting can be wrong. They look back at the sound guy, or it may be too cold or too hot in there. It's the sound guy's fault. The offering may be too low. It's the sound guy's fault. You know, everything gets back to him. So in your radio station, the same is true. The light bulb's out in the women's restroom. Somebody needs to change the light bulb. So I say all that to say that even though you are not the one that is using the DAW on a daily basis and get into all the fancy stuff, you need to have a basic understanding how the thing works and how to set it up. There's some configuration that goes along, just like with anything else. Jeff went through all the configuration that was on wide orbit. Well, even a DAW has some configurations that you have to have. And I want to take this particular software that I want to show you here, just so you'll see, if you're not real familiar with the things you can do, is a software made by Personas that it's called Studio One. The great thing about it, they have several versions of it. This particular version I have on my computer is the Pro version. It's a one-time purchase of $500. All the updates are absolutely free. They never charge anything. Matter of fact, it'll pop up on the screen up in the top that a new version is available. They have a free version that is the same as what this is. It just doesn't have all the fancy plugins and features that the Pro version has. The Pro version primarily is built for recording studios, but I mean, it'll work in a radio station too. But you can get the free version of Studio One that you can use in your radio station for just basic cutting a spot or imagings and adding music and stuff that way. When we did the Aldot PEP commercial the other day over there, once we cleaned up the lady's voice track, then Sharon said we need to put a music bed under it, and she had some music on a drive, so we just plugged it in, imported it onto another track, and we sat right there and mixed the music under it. So you can do all kind of stuff that way. But you need to have a basic understanding of how a DAW works. And Eddie, I'm gonna dim the lights down so they can see this a little better, because they're tired of looking at me anyway. How's that look? You see that? I want to show this to begin with. Oh, come on down some more, huh? Okay. This is actually, and I want to show this to you first, because you typically will not have this in your AM radio station production room. This is actually a 16-track audio file. I needed something to demo. We do these art of mixing live audio seminars around the state, around the Southeast really, and primarily at churches to teach them how to mix audio for their church service. So I wanted a multi-track file, but this is a multi-track recording. It's got 16 channels, 16 tracks on it. It was recorded not layer by layer. Most of the time now, believe it or not, most of the records you hear are not done with all the musicians in the studio at one time. I mean, the drummer may come in on Tuesday and lay down his track, and maybe Wednesday the bass guitar guy comes by, and I mean, they just do it track by track. I was in Florence a while back, and I went over to Fame Studio, which is a world-renowned, believe it or not, we have a world-renowned recording studio in Alabama. But I mean, everybody, the Carpenters and a lot of country artists and people have recorded stuff Even Frank Sinatra, I think, did some stuff up there. It's been there a long time. But there was a guy in there laying down a bass guitar track for a song for another group. He was all by himself in there with the headphones on, just playing along, you know, listening to the previous tracks that had been done. And then the mix engineer would go back and do all the mixing and everything. But this particular one was actually done with all the musicians in one studio. Sometimes you do this if you go and record a live concert and then you want to come back and mix it down. But I just wanted to show you what a full track thing looks like, and you can actually play it. Get my mouse over here. And you can see, this is the edit window which shows all the tracks. Then you can click on the mix window, and there's the mixer. So that way you can mix it. Not only can you go in and edit the tracks, then you can actually do your mix as well down there. If you want to listen to one track, that's one track there. Oh no, let's find it here, the vocal. That's the guy by himself, and you can see how bad he sounds by himself. Sounds sort of dry, doesn't it? He quits. Oh no, he's on track 15. You'll see the audio. So that's how a singer sounds by himself. And then that's the whole track. Now he sounds better, doesn't he? But that allows you to go in there, and when you're doing adjustments, again, you don't do this much in radio, although if you're producing an image for your station, they may do some special music and echoes and stuff that way. You do that in context with all the tracks playing at one time, because nobody goes to a concert and just listens to the snare drum. You know, they want to, and they don't go home saying, "Man, wasn't that a great snare drum concert?" You know, they listen to the whole band. So that's why you do that. But that's what a full track, and you're not limited. It's virtually limited how many tracks you want to use. You can use 1 or 100. The software will just keep generating tracks, however many you want to do. It's basically, you got to make sure that the interface and your computer will handle. That's why I was talking about you really need a processor and a computer with a lot of RAM that can handle all these tracks playing at one time. So let's stop that and go over. Let's close that. And I'll show you how you actually you go in and set up a new track. Now this is something I was playing around with, I think, a while ago. I just recorded something with the mic going through it, and close the edit window, and I had it turned down so it wouldn't blow you out. You spread it out so you can see it as you're editing. All the commands that you use can either be done with a mouse. A lot of people like to use a mouse, and you can go up here and click on edit and do the same thing. But most all DAWs actually have keyboard shortcuts that you can hit. On this particular version, W brings it in, E expands it. I guess that's what E means, is expand. But you can do it on the same thing with the mouse. But I think this is just something I recorded a while ago.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
See, I knew how to count, so that's how that worked. But I want to show you how you start it from scratch. When you go into when you open up the software, this particular software, but they're all the same. When you open it up, you've got, in this particular software, you've got some things you can click on. You can create a new song, you can open an existing document or create a project or whatever. But the main thing I wanted to show you, in, as far as you're concerned, when you set it up, is right down here. It tells you what the interface is that you're using. When you plug in this interface I've got, or whether you have a Focusrite, or whether you have whatever, there's several other companies that make audio interfaces, you got to make sure that you clicked on the right one so it can talk back and forth. And that's selected by a drop-down box. If you click configure audio device right here, you click this drop-down menu, and these are some I've used over the months, and they stay in there once you use them. So you just click on the one that you're using. My digital console, which is right here, if I was using the console feeding into the computer, I click on there, and that's the correct protocol for your software to talk to that particular box. So if you don't have anything, you'll come up with something like that. That's it'll have a slash through it saying you don't have anything plugged in, or I don't know what you've got there. So you have to go and find the right one. But this allows you to go in and set that up. A couple of the other adjustments you can look at. Typically here you can see what the sample rate is and the bit depth, which is based on the box that you actually have. And this is working back and forth. Now when you export it, like we were talking to Jeff this morning on how you export a WAV file into wide orbit or into some other, you then have the option to select, and I'll show you in a minute, you can select the sample rate and the bit depth that you want. Typically in broadcast, we use 44.1 and 16 bits. That's the standard CD rate. But while you're recording and editing, we keep it at 44. And you can actually go up. Well, you can't set it here. You do on another screen, but you can actually go up to 192, I think. And you can really, but remember, the higher the sample rate and the bigger the bit depth, the larger the audio file is going to get. Now, conversely, there's the better quality you're going to get, but you have to remember that when you're doing that. So that's just something to look at. This also shows you the latency, which is actually based on by the sample rate. Why latency is a issue is if they're going to maybe, in the music world, if they're going to play a guitar and sing along with themselves, and they hear themselves coming back in the ear, and Kirk talked about it yesterday, anything under about 5 milliseconds, or anything above that sort of bad. Well, so you can see on these are running like, because I've got it set pretty high, that's 22 milliseconds. So if I turned on the listen while I was talking, there would be a little bit of delay. So, but you can change that when you're setting it up. The way this one actually works, it says create a new song. And people that use this in broadcast and voiceover work, they say, I don't want to create a song. I just want to record a commercial. I want to do a voiceover a book. Well, just think of song as a commercial. I mean, Presonus just calls it a song because it was written, the software was written primarily for recording studios. So if you click on create a new song, all you're doing is creating a new track. And then you come over here and you have and this is for all DAWs is the same way. You can go in and you have a way to name it. So you can call it ABA test. How about that? And this tells you how it's recording. We've got this set for 24 right now. We're recording in seconds and all that kind of stuff. And we click, and then here's our blank screen. You say, well, there's nothing there. Well, yeah, you haven't done anything yet, so there's not going to be anything there. I'll show you the right-hand side over here. It allows you, that's sort of like a browser, and you can go browse for different things. You can, if you have the versions that have all the effects on it, you can click here, and there's a whole bunch of effects over there that you have that you can choose from. You can browse for files on your computer. Like if you had, like I did over there the other day with that spot we edited, she had the music file on a thumb drive. I just plugged it in the thumb drive and went down and browsed for it, and there it was, and I just put it over on the track. But that's what the browse window is for. You only use that when you're going to put something in. If you want to do a track simply on this one, and again, this is the same on all dogs, you can just right click, and when you right click, it says, voila, you can say add a track. Or with the shortcut key, you can hit T. The same thing comes up, the same window. This software gives you like about 3 or 4 different ways to do the same thing. Whatever is comfortable for you, you can use that. And there's our test track we're going to record, and it's an audio file, and we're only going to do one. You can also color the file so you can keep up with them good. You may want to, if you don't auto color, it'll give you a palette. So if you're doing, maybe you want to put your voice in yellow and the background music in blue, just so you can separate them on the screen. If you do it in auto color, it will automatically choose it. It's mono, and our input, I'm actually plugged into the right channel here on this one, so I'll set to right channel, and we say OK, and there's our first track. It's ready to record, and the only thing you have to do to record is click on, this is an arm button. This is mute, and it tells you as you hover over it, mute, solo, and this is the arm record button. The reason they do that, the reason you have to arm a track when you do a multi-track recording, it may be that you've done 3 or 4 tracks. You may have your voice on one track, you may have background music on the second track, you may have some special sound effects, maybe the July 4th, maybe the fireworks stand wanted to have an explosion right in the middle of the commercial or something. Well, you could put that down on another track. You don't. In the olden days, you remember you had to do all that at one time. When you rolled the tape, you had to have your sound effects ready for the explosion and the music. You had to be really, not dexterous, that's the wrong word, dexterity. You had to use both hands and both feet, to get everything ready. But this, you just lay them down individually. So the reason you have to arm a track to record is you may want to go back and edit something that's on track 3, but you don't want to mess with 1, 2, and 4. So you have the ability to just check whichever track that you want to use. And then this is the record button here. So if you started recording, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, it's recording now. And now you've laid down your audio track. And then you can go back and do whatever you want to with it. Typically, in a radio station, when they're doing it, you can actually come in on this one, which is pretty neat. You make it bigger so you can see it better, because typically they're just doing a voice track. You can actually come in if you want to make this even taller. You've got a range right here that you can make it louder or softer, however you want to do it. But then you can go in and listen to that, and we can just play back. Go back over here to the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See? And then if you wanted to go in and edit something out, here again, it's like your word processor. Cut, copy, and paste. What do you have to do on a word processor? You normally highlight it and drag across it that you want to get rid of that segment. That's the same thing here. You come up here and you say, well, I want to take, let's see what that one was. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. Let's take this one out right here. You just come up and click here, and you come over and click here, and you highlight it. Oh, I went the wrong way. Here and here. And then, if you want to remove it, here's a cool way to do removing. It's got a knife. They call it the split tool. I think Adobe calls it cut tool or something. That's what I was saying, they have different names. But if you wanted to take something out, you can make a mark here, make a mark here, and then you can go back to your regular pointer and just click here and go down and say delete. Now that one's gone. You say, well, now there's a hole in there. I need to put that back together. Well, that's just a simple method of coming down here. Oh, don't double click. And just slide it over, and now it's back in there. And if you messed up, I say, oh man, I moved that too far, didn't I? Control Z. That's the great thing about digital audio workstations, is non-destructive. You can do any type of editing you want to. You couldn't do that on a razor blade. Once you chopped it out and it's laying on the floor, you can't put it back in there very easily. But with a digital audio workstation, you can, as many times as you want to edit, you can always Control Z and bring it back, and actually go back and find it several edits down the road if you want to. So basically, the recording is just simply setting up the track, and we just did one track. You can do as many tracks as you want to and record the voice. The really neat thing that I like, and this is something that most all digital workstations, that reputable digital audio workstations do, they allow you to do something called punch and roll, which is pretty neat. Punch and roll is, if you're an announcer, the production guy gives one of the announcers a spot for the public grocery store, and he goes into the production room to lay down his voice track, and he messes up right in the middle of it. You don't have to go back to the beginning and start over again. You can just start right where you messed up. For instance, if you just wanted to start, you said, well, let's see, and you read along here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe I messed up right here on that word there. Well, you can actually start recording right at that particular point. You can put your pointer right there, or wherever you can spread this out, by the way, so you can see what you're doing. You can hit hover right here. Oh, went the wrong way. Spread out there. You can get really, really close right on it. Maybe you wanted to start right here, and you wanted to start recording again. Well, then all you do is just hit record, and now you're recording again. See, so he doesn't have to go back and do the whole thing over. What punch and roll does, and that's something I wanted to show you, in case you Control Z to put it back like it was. If you wanted to show anybody, if people want to know how to do that, is recording now. Is you can actually be reading, and if you make a mistake, you can actually hit Control Z again once you set up auto punch, and it will automatically go back to that point, and it will go back like, in this case I got it set up for 4 seconds, so you can hear yourself and get your, what happens, and this is what happened on that lady that cut the spot for Sharon the other day. She just went to that point where she messed up and started recording again. Well, if you do that, your voice inflection may not be the same, or your speed of talking may not be the same. With auto punch, when you select where you want to go into the recording and you hit record, it jumps back however many seconds you told it to. I think I've got this one set for 4, and I'll show you how it works. But it starts like 4 or 5 seconds ahead of time and goes in the playback mode, and you can sort of read along with you. You know, Public has got Cokes on sale for 39 cents, and then at the time you told it to start recording, it automatically drops into record. Let me show you how, see if I can do this here on this short of a file. I may need to do a different one. If we wanted to, let's go back to the beginning and see exactly where we were. I just learned this the other day, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, maybe right there at 10, I didn't particularly like what I said after that, or whatever that number was. Maybe right here. If you go and you put your pointer right here, this is actually the playhead. If you think about a audio tape machine, wherever that white line is, that's where the playhead is to be playing. So if you wanted to jump in, and let's sort of just spread that out a little bit so we can see it. You can also spread it out with this up here, which is pretty neat, just moving it up and down. And let's move that back maybe a little bit further. Snap to grid. Somewhere right in there be okay to start with. And then if you want to do auto punch, you come down and click on this little little button down here that says pre-roll. Now I have the pre-roll, and this is something that has to be configured. You have to go in and set up the pre-roll, but you've got to set up the pre-roll, and maybe I want to start recording right there, but I'd love to hear myself before it goes into record. So if I did that right, this ought to work. Let's see. Now watch the cursor drop back. We're at 3.5 seconds now, and if it goes back, it's probably going to go all the way back to the beginning, but let's see what this does. 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, it kept what I had, but it dropped itself into record right where the edit point is. And what's so neat about that, and the reason I wanted to show you that, is if you're reading something and you want to get through with it and go home or whatever, you don't want to stay in there forever cutting the thing, then if you're reading something long, this works really good for people that do reading books. A lot of people do that for sideline work. They'll record books. And if you're recording through and you got through like the first page and then you mispronounce something, you don't want to have to go all the way back. Now you could go back and find it and just do that one thing, but this you can do it as many times as you want to. You just hit it and it keeps going back to right where it was. That's called punch and roll. That's pretty neat. You can also just chop out one little section. Musicians use this a lot, where they'll be playing along and maybe the guitar player said, you know, that really, I didn't like that one little area I was playing. I wasn't really on the beat. You can actually go in and set, I want to record from this time to this time. I'll show you how that works. Spread it out a little more. Maybe this right in here we want to redo it. You can move the screen, and what and I keep repeating this because I'm not selling Studio One from Persona, because most all digital softwares do this. But you go up to here where the pencil is and draw a line, say, okay, I want to that's where I want to drop something in. Well, you can turn this one off and turn, this is actually called punch in, I think, auto punch. Now the same thing will happen. You can come back over here, but you playhead over here. Now watch what will happen right there in that one section. It will play, go into record, drop back off again. Sort of like he was showing you on Wide Orbit this morning, where you could mark the place and everything. So you hit record, 7, 8, 9, 10, recording now. See, it just recorded that one place and got out of record. So if you just got one sentence or one paragraph that you messed up on, you could mark that, go back ahead of it a little bit and read along with yourself so you get your voice reflection and your speed that you're talking. It'll automatically drop into record and automatically drop out of record right back to playback. So it's got you can see how a person that's doing production nowadays, if they get the copy from the production director for the public spot and say, I want you to cut this 60-second spot, he just goes into the production room or wherever the microphone happens to be, record the track. If he messes up, he can chop it up however he wants to, save that, and then he's ready to go. You can put this on as many computers as you wish. You could have it on your laptop you take home or whatever like that, and do some of this stuff at home as well. Once you get through with an edit, let's go to one that's already, well, we'll just use this one just an example to show you how once you get through, if that one's finished and you got your voice track like you want it, and maybe you've got some other tracks on here that you did some background music and stuff that way, and you've got it all set like you want it. If you got to adjust the levels, you can come over here to the mix window and adjust that particular level right there. If you've got multiple tracks, you can mix it, listen to it just like you want it. You can do it on headphones, you know, sitting at your desk. Once you get everything exactly like you want it, then the simple thing is to go up here to Song, and it says Export Mixdown. A little menu box comes up, and there's the name, whatever you want to name it. Now, Jeff was talking about, and that's why I brought that question up, because this will create a WAV file or an MP3, whatever you want. But if you're going to play it on the air, obviously you want a WAV file. And I asked him, how do you get a WAV file from a third-party DAW? How do you get it into Wide Orbit? He said, all you got to do is name it up here with whatever the name it's going to be in wide orbit. And then when you export it to the wide orbit server, it will pick it right up and put it where it's supposed to be. It will know what that name and that cart number is. When you get traffic information or production information from your whoever assigns the production in your station, it will have, typically it'll have the cart number on there anyway, because you have to put it in the metadata. Well, that's where you put it right there, so it will go. So you just do there. This publishing is if you want to send it, there are several different places you can send it to, like SoundCloud and places that way where people can go and listen to it or something like that. Typically you wouldn't do that at a radio station. Here's where you select the format that it's actually going to export as. It will export as a WAV file, an AFF, a FLAC, or all these others. And if you're doing it for a stream or you're just sending it to a client and you're going to put it on the internet or an email, obviously you'd want to do it as an MP3 because it's not going on the air. But if you're going to be on the air, you want to leave it as a WAV file, which is a uncompressed file. This is where you can actually set the resolution that you want it to have for your station. And typically everybody does 44.1, 16-bit. That is the standard CD quality. That's what a CD is. It's 44.1 sample rate at 16 bits. The export range, and this is pretty cool, of course in the situation with the radio station, you can select it. There's actually, and I didn't show you this, and I'll show you too when I get off, but there are markers that you can put on your file, like a start and end marker, or if you're doing something, one great way about markers I saw was at a church I was at, and they were using this, and they used, they were recording the service, but all they wanted at the end to put on a CD to send out to some of the church members was the sermon itself. Well, while you're recording, you can actually click on Add Marker. Right when the pastor gets up, you click and it'll put a marker there and it numbers them. So you actually, when you export it, you can actually do it between whichever markers you want to. Typically what you'll have will be a start marker, and I'll show you that. I didn't show it to you a while ago, but you'll have a start and an end marker. Obviously, if it's a 60-second spot, it'll start at 0 and end at 60. So you would tell it, well, I want to do between the song start and end marker, and then you hit OK, and it will export it out. You can actually see, let's see, it's going to put it on my desktop, I think. It was real short, so it didn't take very long. So it's now created a file, and it's in the mixdown folder of the computer. Oh, that's it right there, and it's going to come up. I said it's going to come up. Oh, there it is right there. And that's the file that we just recorded. So I don't have it running through the speakers, but it's there. It's coming over my speaker right now. But and then you can send that, then you can export that directly to your automation system, because it will already have the name and the cart number that the automation system needs. And as he was talking this morning, I forgot what he called that system that was doing it, but oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Look, your test came in. I won't have to make up questions. Of course, you may have done better with my questions. But this sort of makes sense how it works. It's simply you just record the file, and then you have the ability to go in and edit it out. One of the things I see that drives me nuts, and I know the reason they do it in broadcasting, is what they'll take an audio file where they've recorded it, and then the production, while you're in there, you'll go in and strip out every dead place there is in it. And what it happens is when you listen to it on the radio, you say, man, that guy didn't take a breath in 60 seconds. I mean, the words are just like that. Now, I know they do that. I guess I'm not in production, so I'm just speaking the way I think. They do that because they want the commercial to have a lot of punch, and so it's just and you've heard spots like that. It's just the words are just jammed up together. Well, personally, I don't think that sounds good. We don't talk like that. We take pauses. We have to take breaths. It just doesn't sound natural to me. So you can do that. Even if somebody did that, and they did that a while ago, and the one we did over there, you can actually at a later date you can come in and you can very easily put some silence in there, spread the words out where they're not jammed right up together. I know that some production people like that, and sometimes they do it too because the spot was 62 seconds instead of 60, so they want to go and trim all the dead spaces out. But it doesn't really sound natural. Years ago, when Scott System, now Wide Orbit, they had that squeeze that they had, and if you overdo that, it doesn't sound natural either. It looks for pauses in the audio, and it'll squeeze it up. First time I ever saw that, there was a company that made a profanity dump, a delay thing. And that's the way, I think it was Gentner that made that. And when you were interviewing somebody and they said something that was not nice to be on the air and you hit the dump button, what it did, it automatically went to live. And maybe you had the delay set for 7-second delay or whatever. Well, when you hit the dump button, it would automatically throw you to live, but then it would gradually build up back up to 7 seconds, and the way that it did it, it sort of watched for pauses in natural speech, and if the pause was 1 second, they'd make it 1.5 seconds or something, and it would gradually do that over a period of time to where the delay was 7 seconds or whatever it happens to be, whatever it happens. Well, that's the way the systems he was talking about, and that's okay if it's excessive. You couldn't take a 70-second spot and squeeze it down to 60, it would really sound, I don't think there'd be enough pauses in the voice to do that. But this software allows you to do that. There's just a lot of features that, and the way that the learning curve on all digital audio workstations is really not that bad if you sit down and just play with it. You're not going to break it. I tell these sound guys at churches, I mean, most of the time the sound engineer at the church they're volunteers. They may be plumbers during the week or carpenters, or they may ride the garbage truck. I don't know, but they just volunteer. And here's a little story. You know how that happens? On Volunteer Sunday, the pastor gets up and says, well, this is Volunteer Sunday, and we need to get some people to volunteer for different things we need to do in the church. We need somebody to help park cars in the parking lot. We need somebody to help pass out bulletins. And oh yeah, we need somebody to help with the sound system. Well, you're sitting back there and you say, well, that's something I've always wanted to do, but I don't know anything about it. And he says, don't worry, we'll train you. Whoa, yeah, yes sir, buddy. And so what they do, they sit him down in front of the console and say, don't touch this, don't touch that, don't touch this, just turn this up and down. That's all he knows how to do. Well, unfortunately, that happens on DAWs. They just give them the very basic, here's how you record, and if you mess up, here's how you fix it, and that's it. They don't tell them all the rest of it because sometimes they don't know. But it is something that the more you work at it, and in churches I tell them that. I said, the only way you're going to become a proficient sound engineer at your church is to practice. Come in during the week when nobody's there and play around the board. It won't break. You can't break the thing. And the same way with the DAW. It just takes sitting down and playing with it. That's how I learned how this works. I just had it at home, and I said, there's a lot of tutorials on the website, on YouTube, that you can watch and get some ideas and then go back and practice them, see how they work. Is there any questions about DAWs or anything that you have problems at your stations with people using DAWs? They're just universally used now. and there's tons of them different out. Pro Tools has been out for a long time. Adobe has been out for a long time, and what's some others? Cool Edit Pro, SoundForge. Some of them are you have to pay a license. As a matter of fact, a lot of people use Adobe, and I'm not sure, but somebody told me the other day they were going to start charging an annual license fee. They used to didn't do that, but I think they're, huh? They started last year, charging for a license fee. Pro Tools is rather expensive, and they have a license fee on things. A lot of people use Pro Tools, but this particular company here, not because I do stuff for them on the demos and all, but their new software has a lot of features that to me actually rival Pro Tools. It really does a really great job. One of the things I'll share with you when you do, I'll show you this and then you'll see how we're talking about it. Maybe this particular file here, go back to the beginning. To get back to the beginning, obviously, you just come back over and click on that. And this is just the regular raw file. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, maybe on this particular file, you said, well, it would be pretty good if we added something to it, maybe some delay or echo, or maybe the client for the commercial wanted one particular part of the commercial to sound, like it was over a telephone, or there's special effects that you use in spots. Well, you can go over here to browse and look at effects, and these are ones that actually come with personas. These are personas. There are a lot of third-party companies that make these. These are called plugins, and this is the greatest thing about digital. What they have done, what these companies have done, is they have taken the old analog effects boxes that you used to pay several $1,000s for and have mounted in your rack, and if you wanted echo, you had to patch the echo into the board and all that. They've now emulated that in a software. And so if you come down and you say, well, let's see, I might want to let's put an analog delay on this, just to show you how it works. The only thing you have to do is click on it, drag and drop it, and there it is. And you actually see the device sitting there. Then you can go in and adjust all the different things that you want to adjust. So if we go back and play it now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, that's a bad example of an effect, but you see how it works. You can drag and drop anything you want to over there to it. They have like, let's see what else they've got here. All kind of stuff. They've got bit crushers, channel strip, core. You can make a chorus out of it. It's let me go down here and take that one off. If you've got something on there that you don't want anymore, see it shows it's in there that I just put it on analog delay. You just right click it and remove it so it's not there anymore. But maybe we do want to put this chorus, and that's a pretty cool effect. You just drag and drop it over here, and you have all the parameters, and you can adjust it right here with the mouse, just turning it up and down, and you see the thing working, the depth of it and stuff that way. And let's see what the chorus did to that file. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, it's recording now. See, it's sort of it makes it sound like there's more than one there. So this is how that one particularly works. You can actually loop it. I don't have the loop on, but it'll play over and over and over. You just got a lot of effects. The same thing you had in the rack. The Eventide had a switch on it. You could, or a little button, I think, a menu, if I remember correctly, would dial through and pick up different effects. One of the ones that you use quite a bit when you're wanting to clean it up is the let me find it here. Limiters, multiband. I mean, you couldn't afford to have all these. You'd have to have a 8-foot rack to put all these pieces of equipment in there. Pro EQ. This allows you to do all the adjustments that you need in adjusting the low end, the mid band, the high, and the high and the high frequencies and all right in here. You can actually do it. You can see it moving up and down right there, if you need to adjust the tonal quality, however you want it. I actually I was in Nashville at the World Fellowship Expo at WFX, which is a sort of like an NAB for churches. They had every audio manufacturer there, lighting manufacturer there. They even had booths set up with pews and pulpits and the whole bit. They did everything. Well, I was looking at a console made by Digico, which is one of the big ones. And there was a guy standing over there with a coat and tie on, and I thought he was with Digico. So I said, let me ask you a question about so-and-so. He said, oh, I don't work for Digico. He said, I work for Waves, W-A-V-E-S. That's a company that actually makes these plugins. I said, hey, cool, you're the one I really want to talk to. I said, can you explain to me exactly how those things work? He said, yeah. He said, what we do is we take, and here's one right here. Let me bring this up, and you can, this particular one. Here's a CLA2A, which is sort of like, those of you who have been in broadcast very long, you remember the Uri limiters, 1176, every radio station had one. This is sort of this is similar to that. He said, what we did was we took we went and got a 1176. We brought it back to our shop. They're actually in Knoxville, Tennessee, I believe. And he said our engineers pored over it for like a month and figured out everything that it did and how did it do it. And then we brought in our programmers, and they wrote algorithms to emulate what this box did when you had it mounted in the rack. It's a software version of that analog piece of equipment you had mounted in your equipment rack. And the neat thing about it, it actually, when you drop it on the screen, you actually see it. And you can go in and you can adjust it, and you see the knobs turn, and when the audio is playing, you'll see the audio on the meter and stuff that way. I thought that was pretty cool. The thing about this, there's a guy, John Cooper, who's the front of house engineer for Bruce Springsteen, was talking about Waves. He was doing a seminar for Waves, and he said that their modeling, he said back in the old days when we used to use the old analog equipment mounted in the rack, he said you really couldn't use but about 2 of these or 3 at the most. If you used any more than that, the noise floor was so high, because these things are tube, I think. He said the noise floor was so high, the noise would kill you. It just had way too much noise. When Waves modeled this, they modeled it so accurately, it still has the noise in it. He said to use more than 2 or 3, you got to switch it out of analog mode into digital mode to get rid of the noise. But he said Waves is so accurate in modeling their software, they even put the noise back in it, which I thought was sort of funny. But all of this stuff, this company, they just have tons of them on the website, and they're sort of proud of them with their prices, but they have sales. This particular one here, I just got the other day. Normally it's like $359. They had it on sale for $29. It's a Black Friday, so I downloaded that in a hurry, for $29. But it will give you that same sound that you had back when you used the old analog. That's the cool thing about it. So the possibilities of adding stuff to a commercial or adding stuff to a station image or whatever your production people are doing is all in one box here in software. The professional sound mixing people call this mixing in the box. If they're working on an analog console with analog processors and all, that's one thing. But when they move over to DAWs, they call that mixing in the box because it's all right there. So it's pretty cool. So I encourage you, like I say, I don't think there's any radio station that's not using DAWs now. But get familiar with the software that they're using. I know you've got a lot of spare time in between build out some transmitter phase and stuff. But when you get a chance, sit down and play with it, and just, you're not going to break it, and see how it does. It really does do a good job. The markers, I want to show you that while I'm on this screen. You can turn the markers on where this little flag is, and there's a, let me get rid of that.
Larry, did you say there's a demo version of this software?
Yes, and everybody has that. Adobe, Pro Tools, everybody has demo versions that you can get that will last, 15 minutes and then it goes away. No, I think it's a month demo or something. But you can see this little flag up here. It says start, and there's probably an end flag, and I think I set it for 2 minutes a while ago. Yeah, there it is way over there, but you can set it however you want it. Any questions about DAWs and how they work? Just make sure your computers are set up good. Yeah.
What about conventional hard drive versus solid state drive? Seen any difference?
Other than fast startup,
Okay.
the next computer I get, I'm going to get a solid state drive because John George has got one. He has and I've never seen this before. It's a hybrid. The operating system is on a solid state drive, and his storage is on a conventional drive. But the next one I get, I'm going to get a solid state, and typically you only put the operating system on there and a DAW. You put the operating system and the DAW software on it. All your data when you store it. Most people now just have like a little plug-in. Yeah, he's got one back there, a little plug.
That's a 480
Yeah.
SSD drive?
Oh, you can go to Best Buy and now get 1-2 terabyte little things like that. That's just cheap and just
This is really fast.
just store it on it. That way you keep a lot of extra stuff off the computer. Any other questions about the DAW? There's a lot of features that you can do in there, which I didn't show because a lot of them have to do with music production, but for production of commercials and imaging, this really speeds that up. And I see more and more, every station is using those now. I went to Denver, to the Colorado Media School. They have a big media school where they teach, not the technical side, they teach camera operation and editing and stuff that way. They had 6 production rooms, and every room you went by had up on the screen was a digital audio workstation. A lot of times now you'll see them actually in the control room for editing phone calls and stuff that way. But they all work the same. So, all right. If there's no other questions, and we appreciate you coming today and for the whole week. I hope you've had a informative time this week and picked up some information from our presenters. And if you get a chance, drop them an email and thank them for coming. Or you can tell Jeff personally, he's still sitting back there. So you're welcome to come up and look at this and play with it if you want to, because you're not going to break it. I break my computer, but you won't break the software. Well, thank everybody for coming.